Yep. Good evening. I'd like to call the Alton Board of Selectmen's meeting to order October 5th, 2020 at 6 o'clock. You please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. That's Mr. Paul Rochelle. Lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Until further notice, to keep our members, staff safe, they comply with RSA 91-A, the state of emergency, and the governor's orders. Restrictions on public gatherings. The town of Alton has moved from in-person meetings to remote audio participation meetings. To remotely attend the meeting, audio and video, visit our website, www.alton.nh.gov. On the day of the meeting for instructions or telephone, the Selectmen's office, 603-875-2113 or 603-875-0229. There continues to be no public input at this time. Gentlemen, if I can have the approval of the agenda.
Take approval of the agenda as written, October 5th, 2020.
Second. Motion made by Paul Rochelle to approve the agenda as submitted on October 5th, 2020, seconded by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote is in the affirmative. Move on to emergency management update. We have Chief Bodine here tonight to bring us up to date. And the chief is on the phone if we need him. And the chief is live. Good evening, Chief. Chief Bodine and Chief Heath.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, good evening. Sorry.
And John, excuse me. John, if you want to come up and squeeze in there between, if you can find 6 feet, you can. No, we still don't have 6 feet here. That's all right. I'm right in the middle.
All right, so as you know, the town has actually fared pretty well through this entire pandemic. You guys had asked us to consider opening the meetings back up. We took that into consideration. During that time, we actually had a spike in cases. In a short, 3-day period, we moved from 0 cases to 9 cases in town. That has gone back down to 2 cases. So those 9 people did a very good job of isolating. They did not contaminate the town. They did not get their neighbors sick. So that's the best we can ask for, best case scenario there. So when we're down to only 2 cases, we decided that it is going to be in our best interest to move forward and open the Board of Selectmen meeting up to public participation. With that said, as you can see, everything's kind of spread out, pre-staged. There's some tape on the floor where chairs should be 6 feet apart in all directions. That brings the audience participation down to 16 people.
That's what we normally have.
Usually more. With that said, though, if more show up, there are 2 options. We either have to close the meeting if nobody is willing to go back. If they're willing to go back, we have to explain to them how to do remote access and then recess until they can get back to remote access. And then you'll be able to reconvene.
They come in all in a crowd. You just throw them out.
If you can't just throw it, as soon as you make somebody feel like, as soon as somebody feels like they belong here or they can't be here, you have to shut down the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing to do is keep it organized. Either the chairman, somebody has to moderate the people coming in, and just be aware. We still want temperatures taken, and we still want the questionnaire done. We recommend masks, but we're not going to require masks. Hand sanitizer right there where the agendas are is probably the best course of action there. But like I said, if you end up with more than 16, you kind of have to revisit that. You might be able to put one more here, but then after that, you're going to have to send it back for some either remote access, and if no one's willing to go do remote access, you have to close down the meeting.
How many can we put in the museum?
If you want to like simulcast to the museum?
Doncaster Museum, like John has done in the past for the, planning board. When he stood over there and monitored that.
And do you remember the number there? Because off the top of my head, I do not remember.
We've got 6 or 8, there's not a lot over there.
So again, you're gonna have to have somebody.
Well, right, I understand that,
and
yeah.
keep that going. Truly, the best course of action is to show people how to remote access from home, and that's only if you have more than 16 in the audience.
Well, if it comes to that we all of a sudden get influx of people, then we're probably gonna have to come back to the remote access anyways.
Well, we never know. Normally, we don't have that many in the audience. Normally, we have up to 6. Normally, we've had up to 6.
And, you know,
Now,
that's something you guys can revisit, like if there's a hot subject, something that you think is gonna bring a lot of people in, then you would maybe hire somebody to open up the museum just for that, not just to have it.
When we have a hearing, we have more people than any
Right.
other time, but a regular select board meeting, we might have 6 or
8.
7 people.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe when we make the announcement that we opened up the meetings, we just say it's first come, first served, total of 16 people. And just say it right off the top. Then we still might have to shut down if somebody wants to make a thing out of it, but at least we said that that's the way we wanted to do it.
Well, the thing is, it's not so much they make a thing of it. They have no way to do remote access. You'd have to shut it down.
Right.
Because if they have no way to do remote access, because they don't have a computer or something, or a cell phone that would allow them to do that, you'd have to shut the meeting down. So,
The only other thing we ask, to help make this happen, allocate resources, is that as this happens, we work on shutting down the west bathrooms.
Mhm.
That'll allow those resources to come here and do the cleaning, allow the people to have a little more time to get here and get the cleaning done.
Now, John, when do we usually we shut them down pretty quick, don't we?
no, you don't shut the west side down.
The west side doesn't usually shut
East
down.
side, just the east side. East side's closed.
But I would recommend
Closed by now.
opening the west side for special events that are happening on the ice, exhibition derby, things like that. So if there's an event happening in the area, open it up. If you deem it necessary, just keep it open on the weekends, do that as well. But otherwise, that'd be a nice way to have resources here.
Mr. Chairman?
After this weekend, we could close that to just weekends anyways. After the foliage weekend, that's this weekend, so.
So,
Ian, the green guy again. Have we ever thought about that stage area up there? I don't know what's there, so.
There's one behind that curtain.
That's a wall behind it, right?
Wall.
Really?
Yeah.
Josh's apartment.
It's renovated into
Storage,
Yeah,
file
okay.
storage.
I've never seen it.
Well, you've never been through the building. Curtain's always been closed.
all right, what do you think? Put the selectmen up there and then increasing some more chairs?
Sure.
You always want to talk down there.
Oh, I think we can find it.
At this point, we would recommend just the selectmen's meeting, make sure that goes well, and if that goes well, open it up to some of the other boards, as long as we're still able to allocate the resources for cleaning.
We having any trouble getting cleaning supplies?
I think that has come back on board. Stuff is a little more expensive than it's been in the past,
Well, everything.
Naturally. Par for the course.
and we're going through it faster.
I just had an argument with the lumber company, because they said they're gonna take a 43% jump, which is why. They said, well, wildfire is out west. I says, yeah, but we use all eastern white pine.
The mills are just gouging the market.
Yep, they are exactly right.
Exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
And it's not just.
It's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Oh, it's starting to go.
Well, Chief, I appreciate it, but I guess I would recommend to you or to the board that we wait till November 1st. I don't want to prolong it any longer, but I want to get through the foliage season for the restrooms in the bay.
Yeah.
I don't want to tax.
No, that makes sense.
I don't want to tax the bay out behind the restrooms any more than what they have, but if it's because we have to bring the staff here to concentrate more on this, even though it's one night, maybe clean the next day, whatever. I would just like to see us wait till the 1st of November so we get through the peak foliage season, and then all the warm weather's gone.
More than one night, because you're gonna have, if you open up this, it's gonna eventually open up planning.
Well, eventually it is, but right now it's just the Board of Selectmen.
We don't want to take the small step, make sure it's working. Also keeping remote access available as well.
So I would recommend the 1st of November to my board. I don't know how they're gonna.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
agree with that.
I think that would be good.
That would be good.
And then opening up weekends, like you said, the weekends and especially during events on the ice or anything like that.
Weekends you'd have to because of what goes on at the bay, and plus you're still gonna have hikers out past that. And we really don't wanna go on the side of the road, especially on Jesus Valley Road or Reed Road or anything else.
Every road.
So-
Everywhere.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. It'll be nice and the public will be glad to hear it too.
And, the other big question that was out there was trick or treat.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it'd be foolish to think that we're gonna stop trick or treat happening anyways.
Thank you.
Um,
I had my sign all ready to shoot.
the plan is to, you know, have it as usual, but just get the information and the safety guidelines out there so people just understand. I mean, it's still around, and one of the best best practices to be safe.
And actually still going up.
In some spots, yeah. Again, we're doing very well.
Well, the kids will wear masks.
That's it.
Speaking of kids, how do we make out with the school?
Closed.
They're closed this week.
The school is closed.
That's what I heard.
They're back to remote learning.
They're planning on opening back up after the holiday.
Yeah.
You know,
Was there one positive there at the school?
I believe so.
And was it staff or kid?
Kid. What was kid?
I was told.
Oh, it was one of the teachers.
My wife was just one.
Just one.
Pretty bad.
So,
Better than I thought it would be.
that's good, and,
They did well.
you know, they've reacted appropriately, they did the right thing, and they're taking this time to get it clean, do some tracing, and get kids back in,
So wait till after Columbus Day and then start again.
That could have been a nightmare over there. You know
Well,
what I mean?
Rochester shut it down for a few days and they're back open again. so.
Well, you think about it, in the report, you also had one at Prospect Mountain. It was in your report, right? Prospect didn't shut down, but who knows why?
Yeah.
That was in your report, but the only thing, what I talked to you about earlier, Chief, maybe if you could maybe enlighten Ryan on it, maybe sometime during the week, if you talk to him. So I think the school, on this case, could have handled a couple of things differently. I think a lot of parents sat home worried, wondering if they're gonna get a call from Health and Human Services. And really, it shouldn't be coming from Health and Human Services, it should be coming from the school. Not saying that the child was contaminated, but that child was in the same classroom.
They should have had a letter sent right out.
So they could do self-monitoring.
Talk with the school about, you know, their handling of the notification, but the contact tracing is done.
Through Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services.
Yeah, but I think it gives parents that ease and allows them to watch the kid and see if there's any changes so they can get it early.
Right.
But it just goes more to self-monitoring, like you said earlier in the season, the group did. There was a couple of cases, you said it goes to self-monitoring at this point, and just keep checking your temperature every day, washing your hands, everything else. But at least it it might give the parents a little ease in sitting there all weekend wondering if they're gonna get a call from Health and Human Services because their child was in that room. Especially in elementary where you got kids just run back and forth in front of one another, because I think the letter said, you'll be notified if your child was within 6 feet of this individual and has spent more than 10 minutes interacting with him. So I'm sitting there thinking, elementary classroom,
10 minutes.
that could happen all day long. But anyways, that was just my concern on that. Anything else for the chief or John?
I think it's great the way they mapped it out.
I think they've done good.
So the only thing I got to ask you, I live on Jesus Valley Road, and I'm not looking for any preference, but my neighbors at the end of the road posted their property this weekend. At the Saturday, with the run-ins, with people just going through their dooryards. And even the neighbors trying to talk to them, say, this is private property, you know, we've asked you to stay off, and they say, we don't care, we're coming through.
Really?
So I guess maybe what the town might need to look at is at the end of Jesus Valley Road, when you go up the hill, that is actually a private drive. Maybe letting those folks put a sawhorse across there saying private drive do not enter. But that part of the trail has been closed now because they just had enough after this weekend. There was, I believe, 40 cars at one time parked down Jesus Valley Road. And for you, chief, it would have been hard for you to get a piece of apparatus up to you.
I believe having the parking lot closed just made it.
Well, the parking lot was open this weekend.
Conservation is working on Jesus Valley. They're working on it right now, matter of fact, that you get to the end, there's an old logging road right there.
It's Old Range Road that goes off mountain.
And we're working on,
We have, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, chief.
Sorry about that. I just to add a little bit on the parking issue, I have addressed that with the patrol supervisors and my people as far as stepping up their efforts over there. Based on the agreement we made with the state on the no parking signs on the guardrails, I had them focusing pretty hard on enforcement of those to get and I think part of that enforcement pushed people to these outer areas. I know some of it was, because of the parking lot being closed, but I think the enforcement as well for the parking on the guardrails kind of, got around quick. I noticed some people put some cardboard signs up talking about fines that they received. So
Well, I guess,
I think, what's that?
I hate to say that, I would request the town and my neighbors along with them would probably request a sign, no parking anywhere on the road. Because we don't want to be unfriendly, but they don't want to pick up trash from these hikers. I mean, the litter up there is terrible this weekend. And why folks want to go into a neighboring community and bring stuff in and leave it there for neighbors to have to pick up is just beyond me. I just can't understand it. But no, that's great. I'm glad you're gonna look into that a little bit further, but I'm sure it's not just Jesus Valley Road. I'm sure it's the one up on the mountain, and I'm sure it's the one up in West Alton too.
Jesus Valley,
Yes.
we're working, getting a parking lot out at the end.
Well, I understand that. That came before the board already.
Well,
And then West Wilder just came in and said that people are going to the Forest Society to donate the land.
The property owner up there was gracious enough to contact the fire department to let us know we can still go up there.
Yep, good.
Still have access.
very good.
Okay, anything else, sir? These gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. There was one other thing that I forgot to talk to Chief Bodine about before he went up to the meeting today, but there was some mention about having a brief update as far as finances go related to COVID-19.
Yes, sir.
It had been brought, I believe the board had discussed and talked about some shortfalls, especially with the solid waste department, or not necessarily shortfalls, but overrunning with money and questions about the CARES Act and what we could submit for and not. So we have put in our last phase of the CARES Act submission. As you know, the town was granted roughly $126,000 was our cap under the CARES Act or the Gopher Fund. So we submitted this last round. They had also allowed towns to include wages for police and fire first responders who are constantly at risk of exposure based on their job descriptions and the need to respond to these calls in people's homes. So based on that, we were able to go ahead and put that in I believe our last submission was just over $222,000. Now that's well over our cap, but what that will do is the town will recoup all of that money back into, the plan is to put it into a revenue line under the emergency management line. But that money, as you know, the wages and other items have been accounted for in the operating budget. So that money, as it goes back into the emergency management revenue line is going to be created for those payments coming back in. That money can be used, that excess money will be used to offset other expenses in other areas that, have taken a hit throughout this state of emergency.
I thought all payments had to go into the general fund.
All of those. But that's restructured.
What-
Yeah. Law. I thought when you got money in, it always had to go through general fund.
It does, but I've moved your COVID-related expenses, so it kind of washed those because those aren't truly our expenditures. But there will be leftover revenues that he's right, it will sit in the revenue line because I'm not going to wash out your wages because that was something that was budgeted. All your other expenditures that you've had to pay that were not a budgeted item, your repairs to your bathroom to make them all modified and stuff, all of that you can wash. But the rest of it, and we have received our final payment, so we've gotten the total $126,040.
That's final pay.
That's the total of all of it. The final payment, the check was like $99,000.
What's the $222,000?
That's what I submitted. The third stage for all, right, they only gave you the max up to the 126,000.
He's hoping, from my understanding, the chief is hoping that he's gonna get up to the 222.
No, we knew.
That's
we
not
were
what I
gonna
took
get.
out of that. I took that,
That's what I,
that we'd be recouped all.
No, I submitted the whole 226 in case some of the things they shot back and were not accepted, then they could fill it in so we would get our allotted total.
Yeah, we purposely submitted over the amount based on what we had. We submitted every expense that we had because, you know, you're not sure whether or not something's not gonna be included or they're gonna kick something back, and we wanted to make sure that we would receive at least the full 126.4 that we were allotted.
Okay. So you went high just to get the medium.
Yep.
Right. Well, we included everything, even the kitchen sink. We put everything in that was possibly, that could possibly be included, with the notion that we knew they weren't gonna grant us over that 126.
Okay.
we have nothing left of it.
Well, what I was trying to get at is that by the inclusion of the payroll-related items for first responders, that was a huge chunk of that.
Mhm.
And they're allowing that, even though those are budgetary items, meaning those aren't necessarily shortfalls, except for some of the overtime and different things like that. But that leaves, there's a buffer in there that will be left at the end that's not gonna be, we're not running those lines over in the operating budget is what I mean.
Now, when do we stop the payments on the extra money to the?
First responders?
Yeah.
That's already stopped. That stopped a while ago. That was only an 8-week program.
And that was separately funded.
Right. That wasn't out of the Gopher fund. Anything else?
Can we get a list on?
Nope, I just wanted to touch on that, so you knew there would be some money there to help cover that.
Thank you.
Anything else for the gentleman or young lady? She was Liz, part of the emergency
One
management team.
question.
Yes, Paul.
In regards to restaurants, and this is not what to do with the town, it's private, but where they're putting up shields, if you will, of plexiglass or whatever they're doing, does that get inspected by anyone? By the police department, fire department?
That would only
Board of
be
Health?
done by, the inspection would be based on town ordinance, if you have town ordinance to have it inspected.
Mhm. Okay.
We don't have any of that right now.
Basically, it's required for restaurants to do if they want to go to full
Yeah,
capacity,
I
but,
believe, like, the city of Rochester, the health officer is going out inspecting all the upgrades for the restaurants.
Mhm. So if they choose to do that, they should get in touch with the health officer to go and inspect them. Okay?
You would think they'd want them just for insurance purposes.
Well, yeah, and there's some of them are choosing to do it, some of them choosing not to put barricades, but there are some, and you know. But they should get in contact, and I had asked the chief about that, the police chief about that, if somebody would take a look at any one of them, and, just to make sure that they're doing them correctly.
Can any restaurants go to full, capacity now?
They can, but between the booths that are close to each other, they have to put that barrier up.
I'm just wondering, because
Maintain that safety.
Circle Dine or Circle Restaurant down in Epsom, one day I'm in there, it's every other table. The next day it was every table because they had a big crowd. And I thought, are they breaking rules here or what, you know? But, okay.
Because the two restaurants, as you know, I built 10 of those barricades for that very purpose, between the seats of the booths behind, and it's actually affixed to those. So, you'll be getting a call.
Anything else, folks? Not, Chief Heath, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Chief Bowden, thank you. John, thank you. Liz, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
You too.
Next one is submission of public comments, questions, concerns, email Peter Farrell and Gene Harkless. Do I need, I guess I have to read this into where we said we would?
Yes, and we're waiting for responses from highway and police on the request for the signage and
Okay.
stuff.
Dear Selectmen, Gene and I were very pleased to see the recent repainting of the double yellow lines on the easterly side of Stockbridge Corner Road. We thank the town for the safety improvement. additional concerns. It is interesting to note that the lines on the westerly side of Stockbridge Corner Road are still clearly visible without repainting. If my memory serves me correctly, they were painted at nearly the same date as those on the easterly side on Stockbridge Corner Road. The worn lines to the east are evidence of the volume of traffic passing between Route 11 and Route 28 7 days a week. In addition, average speed at this traffic travels, I am sure the police department will attest, is well above the 30-mile-per-hour limit. Compounding our safety concerns and recent removal of the 6-ton limit on the road that had been in effect for close to 20 years. The effect of additional through truck traffic on the road is significant. In numerous places, the edge of the pavement is breaking away and has narrowed the paved travel lane as low as 7.5 feet. I recently followed a large delivery truck using the South Stockbridge Corner Road bypass, and for most of its journey, it straddled the double yellow line. More broadly, the recent extension crack seal treatment of the road also indicated that the upgrade of the road in the last decade was not intended to uphold the current traffic demands. Remedying these issues would, I expect, cost taxpayers involved in a substantial sum of what has essentially become a state highway bypass. This would be an expenditure for something that we and most likely the majority of our Stockbridge Corner Road neighbors have no use or desire to have happen. We request consideration of the following safety improvement issues: restoration of a 6-ton no-through trucking limit, reduction of the speed limit to 25 miles per hour, addition of signage for, but not limited to, residential area yielding caution for pedestrians and bicycles, C, tractor crossing. And while we have your attention about our neighborhood safety issues, we also encourage you to consider extending the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit to all town roads, including Main Street, and a reduction of the speed limit for the folks on Route 28 south of the circle. Make our roads safer for the people to get out and walk, run, ride, and save more lives than will more pavement. We plan to consider these issues on the 6th date. We would appreciate a notification of such. Thank you for your time and commitment to serve our community. So I understand where they're coming from on Stockbridge Corner Road, because when the DOT, Department of Safety, is sitting out on Route 11, a lot more trucks will go down Stockbridge Corner Road so they can bypass the safety inspection from DOT.
Yeah, but that road is
Can I finish? So they bypass that a lot, and that road is highly used between non-residents that come from Farmington, Rochester, Concord, and trucks. I understand the concerns about the safety. My only concern is they go to 6-ton road limit, an oil truck can't go down that road. So when someone needs oil, are you going to tell them that they can't go down that road? You can't have it for some and not for all of them. So I guess that's one of my concerns. And a few years ago, the selectmen voted to pull them all up because the state statute, someone had quoted that they couldn't put 6-ton road limits because of the highway block grant. Mr. Roberts and I talked the other day, and reading through Title XX, which is 20, Transportation, Chapter 231, there's nothing limiting the selectmen's powers in it. So, I mean, I can understand it. On his letter, he states that 25 miles an hour through Main Street, we could never do that. That's a state road. It's a Class 5 road that is maintained by the state. That would have to be petitioned to the state.
Right. But we could.
Town roads to 25, all town roads, I would like to see 15 on my road, because you can't pass 2 cars on my road at 25 miles an hour.
But Jesus Valley.
Yeah. Jesus Valley, and there's some other roads in town. You can't pass 2 cars. Huh?
Your road's 30?
My road is 25 by Class 5 standards in the state of New Hampshire.
Still fast.
That's still fast on that road. All town roads are 25 miles an hour unless the town goes and does a safety speed check. Go ahead.
We have 2 roads in all that are 25. Old New Durham
Yeah.
and one up on Alton Mountain.
Yeah.
The rest of them are all 30 miles an hour in town.
They're all posted that way.
Posted at 30.
30 miles. We only have 2 25-mile-an-hour roads.
Route part of Route 11D was 25.
We've only got 2 in Alton that are 25. The rest are all 30 mile an hour. Because we went through this a few years ago about this. And oil trucks, the 6-ton limit signs, they don't even follow them in the spring because they don't have to, because they live over even on mud, even through the mud season.
But even people say on Stockbridge Corner, we're taking deliveries from Home Depot, blocks,
Oh, it's brutal.
or doing a septic system. You're still allowed, they got to get over.
You gotta allow it, but you'll be surprised how many tractor trailers come.
Oh, I know how many goes across it.
I mean,
Isn't it the through trucking sign?
Well, it should say no through trucking, but the problem is Alton's line, nobody would know it's a no through trucking until you actually pass through Durham. And once you're in there, you can't, there's no place to turn around.
Gotta go through. You're halfway down the road.
And this is one of the problems towns create for themselves, is you're on a town line like that, all of a sudden you get to the next road, it says no through trucking or 6-ton road limit. Well, where does a tractor trailer turn around that's 48 feet long?
You can't back out all that way, 'cause that's quite a way he has to continue.
Well, how does it work on, Bay Hill Road?
What about,
That's no through trucking.
Yeah, but that's,
Where do they turn around there?
they can't. Alton and Alton, but they're on the end of the roads. They, when you're.
they're right at the end of the road?
At the beginning of the road, like coming across, you go down towards Stockbridge, you're 3/4 of the way down onto Stockbridge before Alton takes over. And then the sign would have to be there at our line, and then there's no place to turn around there because you're already 3/4 of the way down the road.
And you can put local traffic up and no through trucking, but you're gonna have to have an officer there all the time patrolling.
Parked at the very top of the hill.
I mean, I understand their concerns. The best thing to do is put the speed limit sign back down there again, the flashing one. That way there gives them a little more awareness that the police are looking at it and observation of it. As far as the 6-ton limit, I would like to have the town attorney look into this. There was a big to-do. I think you weren't on the board yet. I think Loring sat here, Dave Hussey sat here, Sydney was here, Lou LaCourse was here. When they had this big discussion come up for all the roads, because remember old Wolfboro Hill Road was posted coming off of 28 down in the village. That had a 6-ton limit on it year round. And all of a sudden the signs just got taken off after a big meeting. There was a public hearing here. A lot of construction guys showed up, a lot of local companies showed up and protested over the 6-ton limits. So we do have to maintain and look out for our investment in our roads, so they can't keep getting broken up. Verge.
I wonder if it's worth asking, asking New Durham, if we could sign up on their end,
It's a possibility.
and our end. You know, say no through trucking, put it, it's worth it on both ends. Because they might, I mean, they just had to redo Valley Road because of it. So they might be thinking the same thing, but like us saying, well, we can't stop half. So it might be worth just talking to them and asking them.
Send a letter to the town of New Durham requesting that. I mean, I have no problem with through trucking. But stop all trucking.
As well. Yeah. The flashing light, put that,
Stop all trucking. I can't see it.
the speed sign.
Well, I don't think you're ever gonna stop it all.
No, but you're gonna have your local guys who put up 6-ton limit. That's rebuilding a septic system or having someone like AJ Foss come in with chambers or anything like that, already over the weight limit. So, I mean, you're gonna have to allow it.
Yeah, the idea of the weight is the through trucks, the tractor trailers that are using it
Yes.
for the shortcut.
Yes.
Right on the state road.
Yeah, that's what I mean, they're using it for a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Bay Hill Road.
They've been doing it.
But we don't really enforce it.
It's hard to enforce it. You can't have a police officer sitting on every
Well,
corner.
it's like I asked if we could put the speed limit sign on the hill, but it's too steep. They don't dare leave it on the hill and have it crash down the hill, or try and tie it to a tree or anything.
A lot of the problem on Valley Road and Stockbridge is because of GPS for the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Tells them GPS shoots you.
It does, and I've asked a lot of people, and it's exactly the truth. The GPS of people that don't realize and they're committed once they stop,
Right through there.
But the best thing is to get with New Durham, see if we get that.
It would probably help them too.
That would help.
So the chief, Liz just told me earlier that the chief and the highway agent is looking into this also.
Yeah.
Waiting for a response back to them.
Yep.
And this letter here, gentlemen, if any of you want a copy, Mr. Robbins did give it to me. I did review it. If anybody wants a copy of this, just feel free to grab it or ask Mary to get it up, but I'll leave it in the office. Liz, do you have anything to say to this?
I just want to clarify, do you want something from Attorney Sessler or not yet?
I do. I would like to see if the town can post roads where state money and federal money are involved to limit the traffic and the size, so we can get that question answered once and for all by legal opinion. Because you got all these coffee shop lawyers, corner lawyers, and post office lawyers. Then you have the selectmen's point of view, which isn't always accurate, so we can have a legal opinion. can the town post besides springtime, year-round roads, 6-ton road limit, no through trucking, if federal, state, and federal monies are involved? Does that sound fine with you, Joe?
Sounds good.
All right. Would you also entertain the idea of her reaching out to the town administrator in New Durham to see if they would entertain the idea of possibly putting up, if this is allowed, possibly putting up no through trucking starting at their end?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's worth a try.
Yeah, because it probably tears up their end as well.
Yeah.
I mean, to an extent, we got the same thing in School Street, which is probably why it's so busted up, because locals know, you know, if you got a big truck, you wanna make a left on the 140, it's tight there. You use School Street, it's a lot easier, you know.
Well, I have it on my road too, because the hill on 28, they're all taking a Wolf Road, all the trucks.
Yeah.
And wheelers,
Uh,
traded, they go right up a Wolf Road.
So next time we bring this up, maybe we could contact Mr. Farrell, and then Ken will be available if need be, but we'll wait to hear back from his response.
Yeah.
We'll set up another appointment on this once we hear back legally. We'll know, so he can join us in on the conversation.
Sure.
It'd be nice to let them know that we're working on it, that
Okay, anything else in this, gentlemen? Okay, if not, we'll move over to appointments with Mr. Shibley. Shibley's at the pier, lease agreement renewal. As you stated, we agreed to this. We would like to go over the new lease coming up. Also, the exception would like to have a 20-year lease. Would like to be sure that his daughter can take over as him and Amy are starting to step aside. That's not really allowed in here in the current lease. We'd also like to have an update of pictures and drawings of land and structures, so we don't run into the same problems we ran into earlier this spring. I think, though, my request would be, instead of a selectman doing the town administrator and the code enforcement officer, building inspector would be better at, possibly the assessor. So it gets laid out once and for all on the property card, what the measurements are, where the square footage is, where the boundaries are, and where they stop. So
I have one question on
no
that.
mistaking it again. I have no problem when we get to the point that he wants a 20-year lease, because it's hard to get a loan on anything with a 10-year lease or even 15. They want a long, substantial term. But is Mr. Shibley on the phone with us, John?
I don't have a problem with his daughter taking over.
No.
No,
And their whole lives.
you know that's coming, so. She's been doing a lot, she's been taking it over slowly.
David, are you there tonight with us?
I am.
Okay, so you heard just a brief discussion of what I had just stated. Is there anything you'd like to add to what you've already submitted to us?
No, Ruben, you hit that.
Also, I noticed in the current lease, going back over it again, when it comes to interior alterations in that lease, Mr. Shibley owns the building, just doesn't own the land. I don't see why we would restrict on any renovations inside, because town ordinance says anything over so many dollars, you have to get a permit anyways. Ask the selectmen's permission to change something on the inside of their restaurant, I don't feel that's necessary. I think that could be something that can be restricted. And also, like I said, if his daughter's willing to want to take it over as they reside, the only thing, I have no problem with that. The only thing it should be is brought 30 days before to our attention, so the lease could be changed at that time. I don't know how you gentlemen feel about that.
I'm glad to see it stay in the family.
Just so the lease could be redone by the selectman and his daughter.
Well, actually, when you look at the lease, it's Shibley's at the Pier Incorporated.
Yep.
So it doesn't really specify which particular Shibley family member is the ownership, so this would cover any of those folks.
Shibley's Inc., as long as possibly she's one of the officers of the corporation.
Right, yep.
Yeah. Does that sound something to you, David, that you might have to do? Still there with us?
I heard he's muffled, but
Yeah. So David, I guess at this point, the selectmen are pretty much, what I'm hearing from the board, the consensus of possibly working with the town administrator, the town assessor, and John Devers, the building inspector, to come up with a new lease, the footprints of the building, and getting the file card up to date. Does that sound agreeable to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so is there anything else in there you want to bring before the selectmen's attention tonight before we close the matter tonight?
And no, just those, what you've addressed, Ruben, is fine.
Okay,
I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
all right, hold on just a minute, Dave. Mr. Holt has a question.
I have a question on the file card.
Yes, sir.
The one we were given tonight in the backup has that 10-foot curtilage.
Curtilage, yeah.
Yes.
The one I got from the assessing department, I got it back in first part of the year, 2020, in January, and that does not have it on there. Now, in going through all the lease documentations, everything I've got, I can't find where this 10-foot curtilage come from.
All right, well, this is one of the reasons why we're talking about updating the lease and why Mr. Shibley wants to have everything updated to what the lease says. We have a drawing of it. We have the file, and I want the file card updated so we don't have to go through this issue that we went through this year. Because there's an embarrassment for the Board of Selectmen, it was an embarrassment from the Shibleys, the name being brought into it and everything else. So,
I never received a copy of the one that doesn't have it on it. Every copy I have has the curtilage on it.
Here,
Yeah,
there's
I never got that.
oh, yeah, I give
Every
it to you in
single,
your
I
back.
have 3, and they're all like that.
after the spring,
Had it, the 10-foot curvature. That's what we.
and after the spring, probably Rob went back and made sure everything was accurate the way it should have been. So, you gentlemen are in consensus with the town administrator, building
Yes.
inspector, and the town assessor
Yes.
working on the new lease, getting the
Absolutely.
footprints done and everything else.
Yes.
One of us, when
Then the town attorney will review the new lease, and then we'll bring it up before it. Mr. Shibley will get a copy once we approve it to make sure he agrees with it, and we'll move on from there.
And I think it has to go on to, the warrant, as a warrant article.
It possibly could, because it never used to when I was selecting before.
Oh,
we renewed it, we never put it out when we renewed it as long as it's with the Shibleys.
yeah, okay, all right.
Or there was no major,
Right.
Virgil?
Yes.
Yeah, the last time we had to go on the town warrant, we had to get a vote, a favorable vote from the townspeople for anything more than 1 year.
Yeah, well, we changed it to the 17 year.
Right, and that had to be, it couldn't come just from the board. I believe it had to be voted on the townspeople.
They have to do it again.
It did go to town meeting.
year lease.
So for 20, you'll have to go again.
Like a 10 or 50-year lease now or something?
2024. It was 10-year, because I remember when it became a 10-year lease.
Right.
Years ago. David, anything else tonight?
No, thank you. This is fine.
All right, then we'll let the town administrator get a hold of you on the next, meeting on this.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, gentlemen, moving on. That was appointment Mr. Shibley. We're moving on to new business, assessing department, bid specification, property max and GIS project. In your packet, you find that the specs have been written by Rob. Update all the town maps and everything. This time, do we have Rob on the phone with us? Hi, Rob, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now. So we're looking at your proposal you have laid out. Go out to bid on all your specs. And I have to say, it's a little above my pay grade. So I understand it and understand the reason you want to do it, because there's a lot of errors and omission on the tax maps and everything we have now in the assessment card. So highlight a few points for us, if you would, please. Do I still have you? Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. You were there and then you weren't.
Did you hear my question that I asked you?
I didn't, I missed it. Can you ask again, please?
So I've read through your paperwork on the bid specs and everything else. It's a little bit above my pay grade.
Yep.
I reasoning for it, because there's a lot of errors and omissions when it comes to our tax maps and everything else. So in layman's term, if you could sit and maybe just bring us up to speed and the board up to speed, so if they have any questions or you hit a question, maybe you can answer it for us.
Absolutely. We've had, Josh and I have solicited input from Cartographics, from AppGeo, and from Paul Zuzgo, who are the only three people in the area that we can find that do the kind of work that we're doing. Cartographics is of the opinion that it's a $300,000 job to basically take every property record from surveys and deeds and accurately reconstruct the tax map, where AppGeo and Paul's opinion are that we can live with the inaccuracies in the map that we have now and gradually improve them with time. As we maintain our tax maps and add new subdivision records, we'll gradually improve any existing errors, which also comes at at a much lesser cost, which my understanding in working with Josh is the town has already established $80,000 for the mapping project. And I believe after speaking with AppGeo that it will be significantly less than that. Can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you. We're just,
Okay.
So yes, there's a lot of errors in it, especially when it comes to accurate measurements of properties, acreage.
Correct. It should be understood that a tax map is an approximate document. A tax map is not measured. A tax map has no standing in court. It should be as accurate as you can make it, but every tax map you'll ever see in every community has a statement at the bottom that says, this tax map is for informational purposes only and is not a legal document, should not be used. It doesn't have to be accurate to the foot. It should be as accurate as possible. A property that's 10 acres in size shouldn't look like 1 acre in scale, and conversely, a 1 acre property shouldn't look like it's 10 acres. But I don't think we have errors of that magnitude in most of our maps anyway. What we're really looking for is any potential properties that may not be on the maps at all, and we're looking for where the maps seem together on edges to make sure that the measurements line up. If you were to take two maps and print them to scale, would they line up together? That's what we're trying to get here. So we don't really need to spend $300,000 to make every parcel in Alton perfect. What we should do instead is strive to get it as clean as we possibly can up front, and then gradually as we add subdivisions over time with annual mapping updates, the accuracy will improve from 1 year to the next.
Now, what about your tax cards?
What about them?
This is my understanding, the way I kind of read this would hopefully update your tax cards to the actual description of the property, such as saying someone's property saying on your tax card is only 4 acres when the deed is reading 7 acres. That's 3 acres.
That very seldomly happens. The tax cards, the map is a representation. When we're saying inaccuracies, we're not, essentially what Cartographics is trying to say is we do a giant survey of the town and make everything fit spatially as if the town were surveyed and put on a map. The inaccuracies exist because the maps have been essentially hand-drawn since 1977. So it's not a problem of the text on the map saying the wrong acreage. It's a problem of the scale. In other words, if the line says 400 feet, if you measured it to scale, it might only be 380.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
No, it does. That I understand.
Yep, that's what
saying,
we're talking about here.
Okay. I guess what that will come for the rebound when I say that your tax cards are inaccurate. And I think you'll find out a majority of them are. Yeah. But anyway, somebody have any? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I haven't, in a sense, the tax cards are drawing straight from the deed.
Yeah,
some of them may have inaccuracies. There's property cards that have inaccuracies for all kinds of different reasons, but generally speaking, anytime someone comes in and says your tax card's not accurate, all I say is just show me what you got to back that up and we'll fix it.
Most people won't come in and tell you, I want to have acreage added for more taxes. But anyway, I understand where you're coming from on this. I'm going to turn it over to the other members of the, because I got off track there. Gentlemen,
Sure. No, that's okay.
Mr. Whitman.
No, he said the actual price should come in less than what's been allotted, so.
I believe that to be the case. They haven't, that's obviously why we need the RFP, but in the work that I've done, I've been reassured in several instances that, oh yeah, it shouldn't cost you 80 grand to do what we're proposing to do, and that as long as we're willing to live with existing inaccuracies. Otherwise, you know, the cartographic model of it has to be done by deed, by survey for every lot. Essentially, you start with the town bounds, you lay in the roads, and then you have a picture of the town. You fit the lots accordingly. In a perfect world with unlimited funds, that's what I'd recommend, but.
Yep.
Yes, then fall down the stairs, Bob.
You all right, Rob?
Who is that? Somebody's being scolded, I think.
Bob, are you still there? We lost Rob again.
He was just abducted.
Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to go out for requests for proposals for property map and GIS project. Motion is made by Reuben Whitman. Property map GIS project as submitted to us October 5th, 2020 for the RPs, second by Virgil McDonald. Any further discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Whitman? Yes. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald? Yes. Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Thank you, Rob, for joining us tonight. Hope you're all right. Hopefully see you tomorrow.
War zone.
Number 2, gentlemen, moving on to the fire department, future staffing discussion. Chief Bodine is still with us tonight. He's coming back to join us tonight. Chief, I read your letter. I like it. Don't know if I totally agree with it, but can you break me down in writing the staff scenario of going to 6 people plus 2? Because there's yourself and another gentleman we've already approved for, individual we've already approved for. I shouldn't say gentleman. So that would be a total of 8 full-timers you'll have at that point if we go along with this plan. I like the grant application that you're talking about. Plus it doesn't tie the town's feet down the road.
Right.
But if you could put it down on paper for me to understand it, because scenario over the weekend, I've been looking at it, putting it in my head, all right, you guys do 24-hour shifts versus 8-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts.
Yep. I mean, as far as what the actual shifts would be, there are many, many options. And those many options would be based on whether they were 6 shift workers, 8 shift workers, or if you did 6 people working shifts with per diems combined. My goal is to keep some per diem. You know, I don't want to take the per diem staff we have. I want to give the per diem staff we have the opportunity to apply for full-time. There's some testing they have to do, a little bit of more certification that has to happen before they can be full-time, and this allows for that. The other portion of that is it allows for, if we have 6 people working shifts, it can leave an open day that can still be covered by per diem staff. And there's a savings to the town that way instead of having 8 people working shifts. Myself, I'm not going to be working 24-hour shifts, I'm going to be working days. And the other proposed position for 2021 is going to be more of a shift supervisor for the days to keep things on track. Go to the firearm activations and go to the motor vehicle accidents and kind of keep things moving, but also be that third set of hands to get the engine out or the rescue out to those motor vehicle accidents. And second, you know, if we have a fire, they can actually bring the tanker, so we have an extra person.
When we discuss this, when we put on the full-time, we put on, what is it, 4 full-time or 6 full-time, whatever, the ambulance and stuff.
You have, myself and the secretary, the only full-time staff.
On, so the ambulance was staffed.
With per diem, yes.
Well, it's per diem because we set it up that they would be able to be staffed to 24/7.
Yes. There is 24/7 staffing with per diem staff.
And I thought we set it up that we had the chief, you as the chief, or I think it was, I forget who, name now, and assistant chief. So they would have an officer in that building.
So the deputy does all the inspections. So that is actually pretty much all he has time for at this point. The amount of inspections he does, plus the fire prevention. So as far as going on calls and doing that, I go on more calls than he does just for that reason. I have a lot of office stuff to do that I really never thought of, to be honest with you. I'm a firefighter first, and I've always wanted to go on every call I can, and there are many times when I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just can't. And that's the idea, that daytime officer to guide the shift, to keep projects moving forward, help with some of the maintenance on the vehicles and that stuff. And then the shift people are the ones that are gonna be basically going on the calls and handling the boots on the ground work. This is the next step in progression. Now, last time I was
So
here.
full-time fire department, basically.
I had brought up the next person, the daytime officer. You guys had asked me to show you a plan to work on moving forward to full-time. And these are the two plans. And the big difference is if we did two people starting and the plan is to start this in 2022. So this is not a giant step right now. This is a planning process. And I don't expect you necessarily to commit to anything today. I'm more looking for a consensus to keep working in this direction. But if we did two people in 2022, two people in 2023, and then two people in 2024, that's a stepwise fashion that slowly increases the budget. No. It would be myself.
You've got 4 now that stay on the ambulance.
No, as per diem, but not only part-time.
The per diem staff is going to be replaced with full-time staff. And the per diem staff is still going to be there to supplement as far as vacations, any, hopefully overtime.
Sick time.
Yeah, sick time. And then if we do the 6, that leaves an open day with, 2 24-hour shifts for per diem staff to still be, hands-on in the department. So that way we're not pushing the per diem people out altogether.
I feel.
2 per year.
Well, that's not a problem.
Yeah,
The vote would still go in front of the people.
yeah, but that will be in 2022.
Two is, we go, one, it would go before budget committee in a public hearing, then it would go before deliberative session in a public hearing, it would be discussed there.
Yeah.
Then it would go at town meeting vote. But this is the discussion that when it came out to full-time, saying, where are we heading? And we are heading towards a full-time fire department. There's no
Bro, we're gonna have to have it.
The other half of the plan, there's an opportunity to put in for a grant, safer grant, and that's for staffing fire departments, to help fire departments get that full-time staffing that are, falling away from the farm.
Right.
With that, we wouldn't have to pay a dime for up to 6 people for the first 3 years.
But then it would hit all at once after that.
So that's the thing. In 6 years, you're still gonna be at the same spot. It's just a matter of getting there in a stepwise fashion or paying nothing and then getting there.
That's how we started with the SRO too.
That,
You remember that?
We all want.
But there's no reason, once you start with that, if you go through the grant, that the town couldn't start slowly,
Yeah.
still fund those
We have to.
positions, and then by the time you get there at that end of the grant period, the money's already there and in there.
Exactly, it would have to be that way.
Oh, yeah.
the other thing to remember is the money is already in the budget for the staffing payroll. It would have to be boosted a little bit for full-time. The big hit is going to be the benefits, which is probably gonna be somewhere around 450,000, somewhere around there, depending on where the benefits are at that time.
450 a year.
That would be at that end mark.
So if we went to this, there should be no overtime then, as long as you have some per diem.
I can't promise that.
You would fight hard not to have it.
The idea is to have the per diem there, so the overtime doesn't happen. Some of that overtime is gonna happen due to, double calls or
Right.
building fires.
Or you're still out.
Emergency call-outs are still going to happen.
But it should be able to be controlled though.
Yeah, as far as vacation time, sick time, that's not always forecasted. But vacation times are forecast, we'll be able to fill those easily. Sick time, we're gonna do our best, and we have a pretty good pool. Hopefully that pool becomes the full-time staff, that's really the plan.
So the other thing is, right now, your membership is down low, if I'm not understanding, correct?
It's not down low, but it's lower. We've,
Or the ones you've had in the past?
yeah, we've had some people move on to other full-time departments.
Well, I'm interested in seeing this come out a little bit further than what I'm seeing, and also if you could break it down on paper for me, the ship coverages. Sure. Just to help me understand it.
Oh. People that are leaving, have they been with us a few years before leaving, or are they going through school, and then within 1 or 2 years, they're gone?
Most of the people that have gone since I've been here, I don't know about before I was here, I've been here 2 to 3 years after I finished. They put their time in. We, just stay
So
longer,
we're
but
still making,
we're
not
we
losing
are
money by
making-
sending them to the academy and then
Right.
They leave.
No, that's not, we're not taking people, training them and sending them.
Right, that's what I want to make sure.
Oh, no.
Well, we went through that.
Yes.
A while back.
That's a common thing that happens in the fire service.
Yes, you did.
We're desperate for people, we bring them in, we do everything we can to keep them, and then when they're done, we basically have trained them to be a full-time firefighter.
They go on full-time somewhere else.
And they're gone.
Is there a time limit, to when you can apply for the grant?
For the grant, yes, it hasn't opened yet, it should open anytime, we just don't know when it's gonna open. It'll be before the end of the year that we'll have to finish it.
So would you be looking for now to have, the okay to apply for the grant? Is that what you're looking for tonight?
If that's the direction you wanna go, yes. Two things, if we apply for the grant, we don't have to accept it if we get it.
Mhm.
And if we apply for the grant and we get it, we don't have to necessarily keep the people on afterwards. I mean, personally, that's a terrible thing to do, but.
Yeah, no.
But by then,
That's the consensus I got tonight, is you were looking for the okay to go forward with applying for the grant.
If you're interested in the grant, I would like to have the okay to work on it.
plus by the way we're growing, by 2024, you're gonna be full-time by the way this town's, the more calls you're getting, the more, you know what I mean?
And that's what it's all about, is finding this plan to get us there, and what's the best way to get there. Do we do it in a small stepwise fashion? Do we do it, try to use the grant, save, I mean, there's a big savings by using the grant, but then there's the big
Cost
step
the
up
other
at the
end.
end.
Right.
You're in the same boat at the end either way, it's just a matter of how you get there.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman? We're looking down the road for a full-time fire department. That's the goal, you know, I think.
Yep.
We don't have the infrastructure to support it, do we?
Years if we've been fighting this.
Buildings?
The buildings, I mean,
If you have a
So-
full-time fire department, normally,
we have the building to
Sleeping
hold the
quarters?
people right now, that's what's happening with the Verdeen staff now. Is it adequate? Sure. Is it ideal? No. I mean, it does need, it's had a few upgrades in the past.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I didn't say it needs to be replaced. Now, with that, we did, the town put some money together to, have a master plan consultant, and that's.
Yep.
As soon as we get that working
Looking at
on,
the-
and that's where we're gonna be looking to see what we need for infrastructure as far as, building.
Also, West Alton,
Yeah.
East Alton, departments that where West Alton is mostly volunteer at this time.
Yeah, east and west, there's substations, there's people living out there, they take those trucks out and they respond with us. It's all one department, but we all, out there, they can get there quicker. But yeah, infrastructure is a big part of it, but the master plan is really a big part of that.
Yeah, and that's the way
You have all the ideas I want, but you have to fall into that master plan.
And the way I look at it is the fire and the highway department are the two biggest infrastructures that we need to be replaced at this point.
Yes.
Police department, they just went through a few years of remodeling and upgrading there, but as far as the fire department, it's just been an addition after an addition after an addition, and finally it's running out of room. And then the highway department, same thing.
Plus, they're right down on the rivers.
And they're in a floodplain, one sitting in the old dump, So it's something the town needs to look at, but it's like the chief said, wait for the master plan to see what the ideal thing is. I don't believe in, I'm not in favor of a safety building, I have to tell you that, police and fire together. I'm not in favor of that at all. But, anyways, anything else for the chief on this? So you want to continue working on this and going towards that approach in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I actually think he should go ahead and at least apply for, the grant now, in my opinion, and he can inform us as how that's going and give us more information.
You need to apply for the grant. What's the time frame where you want to start this in 2022?
Well, so you apply we're gonna apply now, so we can have it ready to start in 2022. I don't know when the grant process is gonna open up, for sure. But it's kind of like the same thing as the lavender, you apply now.
Yeah.
Right.
You wait.
Get your hopes up and then they keep.
All right, what's the consensus of the board? Paul, you want him to go ahead for the
I'd
grant?
like to see him go ahead and at least apply for the grant, see where it goes from there, and give us more information.
Mr. Whitman?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that because we don't have to accept the grant.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Holt? Yes. If yes, you got the consensus of the board, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Moving on, thank you, sir. Have a good night. Moving on to number 3, administration investment policy. I'll turn this over to Liz and Laura.
Want to speak on it?
Do they have the policy? Okay.
They do.
So yeah, each year you should be signing this, investment policy as a board because your members do change. This is just to, keep a policy for your treasurer to invest for the town as you see fit. It's required by an RSA that you have that. And that the one that I found had, was like 2009, was the last signed one I could find. It should be done annually.
Annually?
Should be annually because the board changes. So like if some new member comes in, it should be done at the beginning of every year, or at the end of every year.
That's what the trustees of trust funds were for.
Not all your money though. That's just your trust money.
First year I've seen this.
Well, that's.
In all the years of my selectmen, after the end of this term, 17 years, I've never seen this policy.
And it's supposed to be done.
Somebody signed it in 09. Peter Bolster.
Bolster?
R. Huzzy, this.
Must have been,
They should be doing this each and every year.
Never seen this.
General fund, water fund.
It is part of the town treasurer's RSA of her duties.
What's the RSA number on that?
41:29, town treasurer.
But they've
Chapter
been
41.
investing it.
Yeah, she's supposed to invest any money of excess of funds that are not immediately needed for the purpose of expending per the investment policy adopted by the selectmen under RSA 41-9.
We have in these funds.
It's whatever she does, she feels it's not needed. She can just put it into like an investment savings account kind of thing to,
Feels like it ain't needed.
like if you have a huge payment coming up, she's not gonna take that money in.
No, where is she getting the money to invest? Out of the surplus?
No,
the
under your general fund.
Tax revenues that are being.
All right, out of general fund that we use at the end of the year for surplus to give back to taxpayers.
Yeah.
How much money does this treasurer have in these accounts?
Well, the way that the treasurer currently works, you have a payroll account, you have a general fund, and then she has another account.
Okay, can I
She moves money back and forth as needed.
get a list on what's in our investments?
you should have that basically on your revenues every month anyway. The general fund, you'd have there, the water fund, you'd have the conservation fund, recreation revolving fund is in your monthly
Right, but
report.
she's saying, like even in here, it says that they can have, money markets and stuff.
So what,
She has a sweep account. She has a separate account that she's trying to get more interest every month. She just leaves the majority of our money there and moves it as we pay the bills.
As needed.
So it's like a sweep. She leaves it gains more interest, and she'll take it when she needs it, and then if we get a huge tax payment, she'll move it back.
This is
Just
normal. This
yeah.
is normal.
It's just that you really should update it every year, so you all know what is in it, and you sign off on it for the audit purpose.
so if you want to know what's in the sweep account, we need to ask town treasurer. The town treasurer is an elected official, so we can request that information if you'd like.
Like a monthly report or something.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that you don't have one, to be honest.
That'd be monthly, I
Me
mean.
too.
Well, a monthly report would still be nice.
Would be nice.
About all your accounts and what you have in there.
Yeah, so,
Because the treasurer gets that report every month, so, I mean, it wouldn't be nothing to, I would copy it and email it to Laura, and then Laura can present it to
Well,
us.
it's at the end of the year, if she's got a surplus, does it stay in that account, or does it come back to the taxpayers?
She wouldn't have a surplus, it's still your general fund.
Oh, okay.
Anything else, gentlemen? If not, I'll entertain the motion to approve the investment policy, and this would be for 2020, and then we'll have to redo it again in 2021.
oh, this wouldn't be for 2021? This would
Yeah,
be,
you can do it for 2021, that's, since you don't have any, I mean.
You're gonna have a new board member, you're
Nine.
gonna have another board member elected in
But you'll
2021.
find another one in December.
so 2021.
I'll entertain a motion, if you gentlemen will, to approve the investment policy for the year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Paul Rochelle to approve the investment policy as submitted for 2021, second by Mr. McDonald. Any further discussion? Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Swan, yes, votes in the affirmative. Thank you, Laura, and I guess we will look to you in the future to bring this up every year. Old business, number one, smart growth municipal survey discussion.
Well, my opinion, put right on this, stay out of our lives.
I agree.
Send it back to them.
I agree.
Was this done before? Was this new?
I have never seen this before.
I was gonna ask, is it necessary?
This is a new brain.
You don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
I don't see the advantage.
Green space.
I see it as another form of central planning, just
Yeah.
like the Lakes Region Planning Commission does, just like, extension services of UNH do.
They started this because you fought against Lakes Region Planning, that's where the smart growth is.
I guess I don't need to say anything here then, huh?
I know.
That's pretty simple.
So the consensus of the board is what?
Forget it, drop it. Drop it.
West Side Bay retaining wall and brick sidewalk discussion. This is a can being kicked down the road, and the road, and the road. So I was talking to Mr. Roberts, just to let you gentlemen know, and he might be available still for this conversation.
You get paperwork on that?
No, this is just brought up, huh? He is there, but this is being brought up for discussion because we've talked about it. As you noticed, the east side, a lot of folks weren't happy with what we did down there.
Right.
But unfortunately, they had every opportunity before we did it to come and say something, public hearing, the town meeting, and before we did it. The west side wall is in need of repair. It's not from falling apart, but it will eventually.
A few holes in it though.
Yeah, talking with Roberts, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, it's on the phone. We talked about Parks and Rec, and we didn't go there, and I said I was leaning to one down. And we're thinking that this Church Street, School Street being done, I was thinking that's quite a job for his crew to do. So it'd be no problem if we did that job next year, that the highway crew couldn't go down and work on that sidewalk down there, get that done, and possibly the wall too. But like I said before, I was in favor of adding a position to the highway department, whether it's a laborer or a truck driver. As leaning towards laborer, but as Mr. Roberts explained to me, we sat down and chatted about it. Truck driver would make more sense because if the truck driver's out, then he has a truck driver to put in that truck and go. He has an equipment operator that's out, they can put them in the equipment if they're qualified. If not, somebody else could, they could get into a truck driver where a laborer couldn't. So in talking with him with that, and talking about Church Street, School Street, that's gonna be quite a task at hand. By the time the engineering's done, all the piping is redone, the drainage work, the sidewalks put in, the water mains put in, it's gonna tie up that whole road for quite a long time. He's feeling that, that's probably something I'll have to go out to a private company to do versus our guy. Mr. Roberts, if you don't mind, I'll ask you to join in. Is that the conversation that me and you about had? Hi, Ken.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just to give an overall picture, there's a lot of complications on School Street. We'll find those in the public hearings and after we meet with possibly going through an engineer. Part of it's because a major chunk of the electric lines actually run up going towards Main Street would be the right-hand side. In order to move any of those lines would be quite an enormous task. So questions with public hearings of moving the sidewalk to the other side of the road, the underground drainage, some asbestos in, you got a 60-day period in order to do the work. So there's a lot of question marks throughout the whole thing. Width of the roads on Church Street, width of the sidewalks, if we're going to continue the concrete sidewalk to the curbings, just like we would do on School Street. The survey shows some complications with buildings that are already existing. And I'm having those copies, and we should be able to pick them up tomorrow, and I'll have them dropped off at the town hall so you can view them. Some of the buildings are within the right-of-way. Some of the buildings are within 12 inches of the right-of-way. Yep. So in order to build sidewalks, underground drainage, the water that we should put all the way up through there is an 8-inch line, and I think Courtney has driven that out quite well. 8-inch line coming up from 140 to the middle of Pine Street, School Street, Church Street, to tie into that, bring it up to Main Street, and be able to tie the school in with more water. There's a lot of issues that are there, and not that the highway department crew cannot do them, but they're only a 40-hour-a-week crew, and they're limited on equipment. So my idea is for you to have this engineered and then gone out to bid for a construction outfit to come in. I think there's going to be close to $500,000 left in road reconstruction this year, and if you appropriate the $950, you have a good possibility of completing most of this project. And then the highway crew can go down and work in places like the Bay. There's a lot of tree cutting still to be done. There's a lot of ditching that has not been completed, so there's a lot of that can be done. Culvert replacements and other things that the highway crew can do to catch up for the following year and prepared to go on with road reconstruction the following year. This is just such a complicated build, being in the middle of town and you're trying to run school from closure to start is not a big time span.
Kenny,
Yes,
you're thinking you're gonna get that water main in, sidewalks and drainage for $1.4 million on those roads?
I don't know. That's why it has to go to engineer, and engineer will come up with an estimated price. The only good thing is the substructure throughout throughout Church Street and School Street is a lot of sand, so it's not a lot of material coming in. You know, a lot of that can be utilized.
I know, but I think you're still looking at almost $4.5 million by the time you put water stuff in there and those.
Well, the water main would have to be borne by the water users, not by the taxpayer.
Yes.
Like in years past, when the road reconstruction fund got used on certain aspects of the water.
We're not gonna do the water mains and just grind the pavement, pound it, and repave it. But that's all part of the project, was the water mains and everything. That was all part of this project.
Well, hopefully it'll be broke down by the engineering, what the water main will cost, estimated water main will cost, estimated drainage, the lines being moved, there's a lot more to this project, Mr. Robb said. There's certain buildings that are within the right of way, there's some that are only 12 inches in the right of way.
But that's something that we can't.
But he doesn't know until we actually get it out to engineering. He's just estimating right now.
But those buildings in the right of ways and stuff, there's nothing we can do. We're gonna have to keep the same footprints we got.
Oh, engineering will address that.
But we need to address the boundary lines and the right of way down through that, which we're doing. So I'm just stating the conversation Mr. Robb said. I'm glad he was on the line tonight to bring this up and talk to you folks about it, because it's something we have to look at.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just to mention, one of the question marks I've always had, we did the school project, the parking back and forth across the street. We knew that School Street was 66 feet wide. From Route 140 up to Pine Street and Church Street, we never knew until the survey was done, it is also 66 feet wide. So if you ever driven down there, it's a very narrow corridor, and to think that that is 66 feet wide, and one of the biggest complaints was there's no sidewalk going to Route 140. So there's a lot of complications here.
Oh, yeah, there is.
It might be worth taking that little extension there and making it a one-way. You know, just changing it into a one-way down in there where we don't have the width in there. Because those houses are pretty tight down there.
And if I may, you know,
It's all part of the
Wait a
engineering.
minute, hold on, guys, hold on. Go ahead, Mr.
if
Roberts.
if I may, that would be between you and the engineers to sit and talk about and say, this is what we want to see. You know, and then, you know, he can tell you what can be done and what can't be done, and then he can put that project together. I mean, asbestos alone, you know, they'll have a controlled group. I mean, basically you just wet it down, put it in plastic bags, and then there's a disposal. But we know that there's some asbestos lines in the ground. We know that the drainage system on Church Street is really messed up because they widened it at one time and put parking in. It's an extra wide road. It's kind of unusual the way it was built, but all of that can be changed by an engineer in these specs for you. And I think that's the way we really need to address this thing, to get it all on paper and then get it out to bid before the school closes down next year.
Makes sense.
I agree.
Kenny, are we using one of the town engineers?
Not necessarily. It would have to go out to bid, Virgil. I think that's a bid project only.
Yep.
I vote without the bid.
Gentlemen?
Yeah, I agree.
So at least we know what we're looking at.
Yeah, and I think Kenny, back, the beginning of the summer, mentioned that possibly getting this road engineered.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. Well, Kenny, I appreciate you coming in and stepping in here tonight with us on this. Looks like if this is the way the selectmen move forward, then we could possibly use the highway crew down on the sidewalk next year and possibly the retaining wall. If not, doing, getting brush cut back, tree removal, and ditch lines and culverts replaced. Yes, sir.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Boucher.
This is a question for Ken. Ken, has anyone looked at that wall in the bay on the west side now that the water is so low?
I have.
I've walked it and I've looked at it and what the bottom of that wall looks like. And looked at some of the rocks that are coming out and the way it looks and everything like that. Is there any consensus on that wall could be saved?
I think so. I think what we're looking at is you're going to use a lot of concrete, especially a low water that we've got now. But prior to that, the biggest thing is take all the existing rocks that fell out, clean them, basically with a scrub brush, let them dry, have them prepared, ready to go back in. And, you know, and then rebuild the wall from underneath and re-support it. And anything that you can get behind that has voids, I'd pour it full of concrete.
No, I agree. I think the thing of it is, I've never seen the water this low. Is it something that we could possibly start working on and taking care of some of these areas that are really exposed right now?
We don't have the manpower for that.
Okay.
I mean, if
Just a thought.
if the chairman allows me, I can give him a quick rundown of what's going on.
Sure, sir, go ahead.
Okay, quick rundown is like right now we're in the final phases of putting the catch basins into Roberts Cove, which is the 1.4 mile mark. Then we have to go back through and dress everything up. I'm actually meeting with GMI at 6:30 in the morning. We're going to do the layout. Hopefully we can grind the road within the next 3 weeks. We can grind it, pave it, and hopefully close that road up for the season. But we also have the permit on Halls Hill Road to open the pond back up where we have a leaky drainage, which is at Mr. Quinley's property. We have the bottom of it's actually leaking off the tee. We have a remedy for that, but we have to dig it out. We do have the wetlands permit for that. And then I was just called today that we do have the wetlands permit for Depot Street to be able to do that. And I understand that there was things going on with DES. They were trying to bump the project in the Bay up to a tier 1, and that's been denied, and now it's going to be a regular fixed project, so we should see that permit within the next week or so. So we're kind of booked out of what you, I agree with you 100%. Well, water is way down, but we just don't have the manpower to be able to do all of these projects.
No, I understand. It was just a thought. The water was so low, I was walking right down, and you could see the whole bottom of that well exposed perfectly.
Oh, yeah, sitting on that footing, and yes, and all that would have to be scrubbed out. I was actually looking at putting the pressure washer over the wall to be able to clean the area out down there, and to be able to scrub the rocks and dry them, and then be able to put them back in with water. But that would be up to your next supervisor here. And now that's going to be attained.
Right. All right, it was just a thought, thank you, and I did take a ride down on Roberts Cove Road last week, and you and your team are doing an excellent job down there. I thought it looked great.
Thank you, I'll mention that to them.
Anything else, Mr. Roberts? Okay, you need a motion for him to go out for the engineering on that? All right, gentlemen, I would entertain a motion. Well, it's really not. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, can we wait till we have the survey in your hands so you can look at it?
Yes, sir, I have no problem with that.
You may have some ideas in the survey prior to going to bid, such as the one-way, that you may want to entertain prior to sending that out to bid, and we can put those in the specs.
Okay, sir. Thank you, appreciate it. Anything else, gentlemen, for Mr. Roberts before I let him go? No, Mr. Roberts, have a lovely evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
If you're still there, we're going on to Roberts Cove next. Roberts Cove Beach discussion. Back to visiting Roberts Cove again. The chief has got his letter in there as he did before. He'll take it, he'll watch it better. The Snowmobile Club wasn't Mount Major, it was actually Powder Mill. So, I mean, it wasn't the club here, the local club here in town, it was Powder Mill, and that really needs to go to them, be addressed to them. So basically what needs to be said then, if they're not gonna fill out or to do the request of the landowner, providing them with insurance, then the town of Alton will be closing that part of the trail down to Powder Mill. Yes, ma'am.
So in the research that was conducted, it was discovered that on snowmobile trails, they don't actually issue a certificate for each property owner that they cross on the property. You'll see a copy of a certificate in your binder, and that's issued through the state of New Hampshire, and it covers all property owners. It's a blanket liability certificate. So that particular property down there on Roberts Cove is covered by insurance for that snowmobile club.
And we sent this over to the landowners.
I believe they are aware of it. They had not received their copy yet, but it was anticipated that they would be shortly from the state.
Yep.
And then you'll also notice in this thick amount of paperwork that the police department has been involved quite a bit with all of the summertime problems with people down there during the day and at night. And the pictures that are in here of the signage down there were taken by the police department. And, you know, violations of the easement, you know, like no smoking or, you know, the things like that the police department can go down there, and there are certain violations that they can trespass a person from going onto that property again.
Well, that was the problem, is that they've been doing fireworks, outside bonfires at night,
Awful.
which I can understand the complaint.
Yep, absolutely.
Playing late at
No
night.
different than when you used to go up on the dam when you were a kid,
Yeah, yeah.
up on the mountain.
So the property owner knows,
They put on it?
the pro-
Can't get up there anymore?
the property owner knows that they really do have to call the police department when these things are going on, because the police department cannot be there 24 hours a day sitting at the
Well,
property.
Maybe we need to make a sign. If you don't want to lose this area, keep it picked up, don't do any parties. and respect the neighbors that are allowing you to use it.
So so just so that you know, most people that use it abide by the rules.
It's only a few that ruin it.
Right, right.
It takes a few.
Yep,
It takes a few.
yep.
But there was an issue of parking, I believe, wasn't there?
Up and down the road,
Yeah.
which is long,
But there's, on page 4,
There's plenty of parking.
yeah, no, it says there shall be no parking
When I say,
allowed along Roberts Cove Road.
We put the parking across the street because they were parking so Irvin couldn't get his boats in, so he gave us a half acre.
Yeah, but the complaint is they're parking on Roberts Cove Road,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken.
they're on the road, yes.
Yeah.
This is one of them years that everything is backed up.
The town would have to put no parking signs up along the road.
right, because this easement is only for that particular property. So if somebody's
Right.
parked up the hill, this easement has nothing to do with the parking.
That's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
And
but,
this
you
is
know-
our issue at that point. And this is kind of a funny year for us.
yeah, it is.
I mean, it's
No, it's gonna be that way though for more years.
for a few
Yeah.
more years, right?
Yeah.
And it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, people
Well,
are
I
getting
think
used to it.
once they've learned everything that's here,
Oh, yeah.
they're beginning to like it.
They're,
But I think
they're finding everything.
it's still with our community on our signs coming into town, it says welcome Alton.
Now get the hell out.
No. Welcome our community, enjoy our outdoor resources, but please respect our neighbors and respect the property and the surroundings. What you bring in, please bring out.
Yeah.
Because the litter I have seen this year on the side roads, and I'm gonna point right at the hikers.
Oh, yeah.
Mount Major Park itself, Reed Road, Alton, Mountain Road, and Jesus down there, the trash. And these are supposed to be naturalists that are tree huggers, most of them.
But
But
the people that are doing this are not true hikers. The true hikers,
No better.
that's right, they carry in and carry out.
Well, it's-
That's my 2 cents.
Wait a minute,
wait a minute, let me finish. It's like a painter. Anybody can paint. You have good painters and you have bad painters. It's like a hikers. You got hikers that are the real naturals, but you've got people that say they're hikers and they're not, and they'll throw the trash down.
Imagine what the top.
All I'm saying is, I think at some points in some of these roads, that they're enjoying our natural resources, they should be aware of what they're doing by leaving their trash around.
Do you think they would
They
really
can't-
care?
don't
They
come back.
really care.
But that's my
But I
feeling.
know this is teacher met.
I know what this is saying, is that there's a lot of people that are from town and in town that are true hikers, they like to go on all the trails and especially this time of year.
They obey the rules.
They obey the rules, and
They know what they're doing. It's unfortunately, people that are not from around here that go up there with everything in their pockets and everything in their backpack, and they just keep tossing it.
I like Ruben's idea of putting it right on the sign, say, if you don't wanna lose this place, start picking up your crap. You know what I mean? It should be on the signs to let people know, hey, you're gonna lose it.
I think we're gonna be in for this sort of thing for quite some time. I drove the Kangamangas yesterday. The whole length of the road
Packed.
was like, our situation here on Route 11.
Yeah, it's packed.
Just constantly, you couldn't, people walking in the road and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And almost, I'm sorry, but almost every license tag was from out of state. Most of them Massachusetts, but I saw New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
That's what But even the city of Concord is going nuts with their hiking trails down there because of the parking and the trash.
Well, everybody is, all over the entire
It's
state.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's,
But you can't coop people up in their houses.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to Roberts Cove, I know I led you guys astray here.
I would like to see the police at least do regular, patrols.
So they have increased their
Yeah.
patrols on Roberts Cove because of this stuff.
Good.
On all shifts.
When was if I may ask, when was the last time that there was an issue? How long ago?
Well,
Well, it looks like according to this last month, but
well,
No, that's what I'm saying. Recently, they've already heightened their patrols. Has it made a difference is what I'm asking.
it wasn't
I would
last month.
assume so. If you look through those emails, Jane, you'll see some from Ryan, from the.
But we've had this in conservation. That's why I wanted to shift up here, because we're the ones that signed this.
So just so you all know, the property owner complained to the Conservation Commission, and Virgil is on the Conservation Commission, and that's why this was brought
We've been
forward to you.
And we've been dealing with this for 3-4 months, since springtime.
So has it gotten any better in the last month?
Not yet, because he's still asking us for stuff and still trying. That's why I said before, at the last meeting we had, let's bring him in.
Okay.
Let's bring conservation in. And let's have a meeting, get everybody on the same page.
Okay, but I got the impression from him, what he was asking for now is because of the insurance. From the snowmobile club, not the trash issue at this point.
No, I think it's both.
Is it both? Okay.
But it's late at night, they're having bonfires, they're screaming
They're
down.
still doing that?
Yes, they're screaming down there, that's why I asked, but like Ryan said, you can't really catch them in the act.
Why not?
They have, I don't know.
Somebody's gonna make a phone call when it's happening and get them down there.
They're down there late at night, they're smoking there, they're smoking dope there.
Set a camera up.
These people are a little upset because they're the neighbors.
I don't blame him.
And neither do I.
No, that's not.
He shouldn't have to do it. I wanted to shift up here because at least we have the authority to do something. Because I'd hate to lose this.
Oh, definitely. He needs to be treated properly.
And he's been treated. That's why, at the last time when we brought this up, I said, let's get Mr. Hepburn in here, some conservation people in here, and let's figure it out, get the chief in here, and let's get it figured out so everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what's going on, and he'll be happy, the town be happy, and we'll be able to work it out.
Well,
Unfortunately, we can get it worked out, but as far as them going up there at nighttime, at midnight, or 1 o'clock in the morning, starting a fire, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be up to the neighbors to call the police.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Because as you know as well as I do, we had the dam on the mountain, we were kids growing up, we had the Wolfboro pits, and we also had the Black Point pit.
Absolutely.
How many times did the police come out and try to chase us out of it, and we went down and hit the pit? They were constantly up there. And then there was a lot of times they just didn't come up because they knew they weren't gonna get us out of there.
Well, I had to cut the handcuffs off.
And I'll be the first one into it. That's one of the skeletons out of my closet.
People, you know,
So
calling the police department.
the best thing we do is monitor it, police it. I still think if we can get the sign from the conservation department up there where this is their place down there.
You don't think we should bring him in?
I have no problem bringing him here with concerns, but I've heard all his concerns in his letter. So I'm
And they've
trying
been
to address
addressed.
those
Trying to
concerns.
help them.
So all I'm saying is that down in the future, put a sign up. This property was granted to the town of Alton by an easement. We need to keep it picked up. We need to keep it clean. We could lose this easement if the neighbors keep getting upset and being, having parties and stuff like that. No parties allowed. Oh, we could lose this. People need to know, we will lose this.
Yeah, because when this first started, a lot of it was the trash because they weren't picking enough. So the trash cans were, there wasn't a lot. There was some around the bottom of the trash can. But Parks and Recs it up there, they go up almost every day to pick it up now.
You know what I mean? But it just keeps, and I think it's a lot that the
Summer camps.
Oh, I think we're having a heightened problem with trash in the whole town. And like Liz said, and every town is experiencing it. And we have to just have a little bit more cooperation with the police department to make more patrol if they can. And people, if they see something, report it.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Without a permit, can we send him a letter?
Then review this according to the police.
I'll call him.
Call him or whatever, yeah.
Because the public access sign here lists just about all of these things they're complaining about.
It's there already. It is there.
All right. Nothing else then on that, gentlemen? Well, let's move on to the selectmen's reports. Mr. Holt. Oh, I'm all set. Rochelle.
Yes, on September 30th, we had the ZAC meeting, and we're moving forward. We've had our third meeting, and moving a little bit further forward on past warrant articles of last year that did not pass. I mentioned this before, and some of the ones that we're researching and rewriting to put back in again for new amendments were child daycare uses, lumberyards, outdoor recreation, eventually Airbnbs, and tiny homes. So these are the discussions we've had, and we've already changed some of the verbiage on some of the first ones I just mentioned, and working with those as we move along. So it's moving along quite nicely, and coming up with some good ideas to put these into the warrant articles, and going over anything else that we've missed in the past warrant articles, and going through the zoning book, and see if there's anything else that may be a little bit of problem that maybe needs new wordage or to be removed.
Not going into the storage containers
We're gonna bypass that for now.
Okay, because it went down 2 years in a row, so.
Yeah. So we decided to give it a little break and, come up with some better ideas. Bring that up again next year. Okay?
Bill?
I have no.
Mr. McDonald?
Planning board, we're getting ready to start master plan. Jessica's supposed to be getting in touch with, not counselor, but, consultant. So that's getting ready to start on the, CIP. It was should have been $1.58 this year. We've got it down to 99 cents level the next 3 years and then drops. So we've done that. That'll be coming up here pretty quick. We gotta go planning board first, then it'll be coming here. But that's giving everybody what they need. Jessica and, Amelia did a great job on setting that up for us. I mean, they made it a lot easier for us to work that program to get it so the tax rate stays down instead of $1.58 this year.
They're a good team, and they've been doing very well.
That's about it.
Well, the one I had came up earlier, that was Jesus Valley Road, talking to the neighbors up there and then posting the land, which was always open. Now they posted and closed it, so I'm not gonna bring that up again. The budget committee did not meet last week. The week before, it was called off due to lack of quorum. So I have no reports on you on the budget committee. The way it keeps going, it might not even be one this year. So,
Still can't get warm?
but by law, we have to have one. So at this point, I want to end at this point and turn it over to the town administrator.
When we post meetings, can we post them outside this town hall, please? A lot of people go up, and a lot of people have mentioned it to me, and we're starting to not post them there, and they're on the computer, and a lot of people walk up and look at the one right outside the door, including me.
So it's my understanding that all agendas are posted at the post office, the town hall, and on the website, the town's website.
Okay, that's why we canceled conservation the other night, because it wasn't posted.
Yes,
We didn't know it went on.
and I had a discussion, the town planner came to see me about that, and apparently it had been posted and someone removed it. And in a situation like that, the meeting could have been held
But we,
because it was legally posted.
but we didn't
Not
know
the
that.
town- It's now, not the town, well, I can't speak to that, but she,
Because we go outside to see if it's posted, because we know it's at the post office, and then we check that board.
well, we have some pretty responsible people who post, so if this ever happens again, you can be guaranteed that it did. It had been posted.
I'm just asking if we can have it posted out there.
So
Because we have a conservation coming up that ain't posted yet.
when you say out there,
On the bulletin board.
in the foyer,
No,
Outside.
outside, because you can't get in the foyer.
You mean outside the building?
Outside in that little,
Outside the bulletin,
in the little bulletin board.
Outside bulletin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we started.
I will ask them to do
If we
that.
can, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, sir? No. And then I will pass the torch along to Ms. DeYoung.
So I have one item, I
Just one?
need, yep, just one for open session. I need a vote to approve trick or treating on October 31st from 5 PM to 7 PM.
So gentlemen, you heard the young lady. She needs a motion to approve trick or treating on October 31st from 5 PM to 7 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve trick or treating October 31st from 5 PM to 7 PM. Paul Rochelle, seconded by Virgil McDonald. Any discussion?
Are we gonna have the town administrator handing out candy here?
We are not handing out candy during the state of emergency.
Just checking.
So this came from the police.
Keeping all the candy then.
This just came in from the police chief. He forgot to ask it while he was on the phone. So if anyone further discussion, I'll pull the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Thank you, Police Chief, Mr. Heath. That made my night. Trick or treat matters.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Don't ask some of my employees at the store, because they got one guy who said it's stupid. That's all right, I don't agree.
I know who that is.
He didn't like the bats flying around. He didn't like the eyeballs hanging out at the store. He didn't like the guy crawling out from underneath the counter today.
And you gotta do it all the more to them.
So gentlemen, we'll move on to the minutes Approval of minutes, September 21st, 2020.
Move we accept the minutes, from, selectmen meeting, September 21st, 2020.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Whitman to approve the minutes of September 21st, 2020, regular minutes. Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? All the board, Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Whitman, yes. Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. September 21st, non-public.
I,
Make a motion that we approve the September 21st non-public and sealing all.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to approve the non-public, sealing all minutes. Divulging, second by Mr. Whitman. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion? All the board, Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Approval of the September 28, 2020 budget meeting. No, I wasn't asked for approval of the budget yet. Don't get carried away there.
You lost me for a minute.
I thought I did.
That's what it sounded like.
Make a motion that we approve the September 28, 2020 budget minute.
Second.
Made to approve the September 28, 2020 budget work session. Second by Mr. Rochelle. Any discussion? Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, vote yes. Vote is in the affirmative. Gentlemen, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? You had one item on it.
Motion that we approve the October 5th, 2020 consent agenda.
Second.
Made to approve the consent agenda, second by Mr. Whitman. Motion was made by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Discretionary action, request appointments, discussion, majority vote required, nothing being there. Gentlemen, I'll entertain, at this time, folks, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into non-public session on these RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2, A and C.
So moved. Second.
Motion is made to go in non-public session underneath RSA 91-A:3, 2A and C at
7.
7:47, seconded by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Folks, we are in non-public session. When we come out, we will announce when we're out of non-public session.
See you. Thank you.
Good evening. Call the Alton Board of Selectmen's meeting back to public session at 8:31. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion not to divulge the non-public session minutes underneath A and B.
Second.
Motion's been made by Reuben Wentworth not to divulge the information on public session underneath A and B, second by Virgil McDonald. Discussion would be A, affect adversely the reputation of any persons other than a member of this board, and B, render a proposal ineffective. That is the reasoning behind it. Any other discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Gentlemen, if there's nothing else tonight, or ladies, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:32 PM.
So moved.
Made,
Second.
Mr. Holt to adjourn the meeting 8:32, seconded by Paul Rochelle. Any discussion? Poll the board. Mr. Holt? Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote is affirmative. We are now adjourned at 8:32. Thank you, folks. See you next week, same time for budget.